We're live for another Boy Green Daily, baby. My name is Paul Eston Jr., a.k.a. Boy Green. It is a daily New York Jets video show, and we've got a former Jets Pro Bowl cheerleader joining us on the program, also co-host of a very special Jets show. Without further ado, let's roll the footage. Let's get into it, baby. Booyah! It is unequivocally the Super Bowl for New York Jet fans. Field Yates, baby. Field gosh darn Yates. Let's bring him on the show. Come on, people. Connor Rogers is joining the show. What's up, Connor? But Trevor gosh darn Sycamore, baby. For me, personally, my favorite New York Jet of all time.
Wow, it's great to be on. What an intro that was right there.
Paul, nobody does an intro like you, man.
Paul, you give the best intro of literally any podcast that I've ever been.
I'm gonna lose my gosh darn bananas. Good morning, everybody. Again, my name is Paul Eston Jr. We have one more show randomly here in Vermont before we return to New York, and I'm pleased to be joined by a very special guest. I've been on her show, the Goddamn Jets podcast. I'm normally a gosh darn guy, but goddamn works. I've been on her show a bunch of times, but it was about time that we flipped the script and brought her over to my show. It is Kimberly Cantoni, the former New York Jets Pro Bowl cheerleader, and again, co-host of the Goddamn Jets podcast. Amazing, beautiful, talented. I mean, I've got so many adjectives to describe this woman, so let's just bring her on the show. Kimberly, good morning.
Good morning, Paul. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much. Like you said, it's been long overdue to get me on the show, so I'm just very excited to finally be able to join you this morning.
Yeah, before we get into, we're going to be, and now that this is a bye week, we're just going to call this the first half. I know that's not the math of it, but we'll figure that part out later. So we'll kind of grade what we've seen and predict what is to come. But before we get there, Kimberly, I think me and a lot of people are interested in your journey, your path from New York Jets fan to New York Jets cheerleader and then the Pro Bowl. I mean, phenomenal. We haven't seen enough of those from the Jets over the last couple of years. So Kimberly, give us a little bit about your story here.
Sure. Well, I am a diehard Jets fan, born and raised Jets and Mets fan, mainly from my father, who taught me everything there is to know about Jets football. My earliest memories with him were sitting on the couch with him every Sunday watching the Jets football. He really taught me how the game of football works. So basically amongst my friends, I was one of the only few girls that actually knew how football works. Exactly. We need more of those.
Absolutely.
And I've always been a dancer my whole life and always wanted to dance professionally, just didn't know what outlet to go into. I thought for me, Broadway would be the journey for me. But then a friend of mine was actually on the Jets flight crew, and she had done it for about 2 years. And she said to me, I think you would be perfect for this. And I was like, well, it's my favorite team in the NFL. Like, I would be silly not to go out and at least try. So I tried out in 2012. I actually only made it to semis, but then got cut. And then from there, instead of using it as something to deter me, I turned it around and was like, okay, now I know what I need to do to kind of make this team. Came back the following year, 2013, made the team, was on the squad for 5 years, and ended my career at the 2018 Pro Bowl, which I was actually the only Jet to be at the Pro Bowl that year. So I remember when I got to take over the Jets Snapchat, it basically was like day in the life of an NFL cheerleader. I kind of got to show people a glimpse into that world where not many people get a chance to see as a cheerleader. And then from there, I kind of, stayed within the Jets doing the Goddamn Jets podcast, which is great because I still get to stay up on all the Jets news that goes around. There's never a dull moment with the Jets, as you know, but that's kind of my story. It was some of the best times of my life being able to dance on the sidelines for my favorite team in the NFL and being there for so many highs and so many lows. I actually was proposed to on the field. It was Christmas Eve at my last game. So a lot of special memories for me. It was actually the last time the last game we got to go see with my father when he was still alive was the Jets Buccaneers game when Tom Brady was on the team and Gronk and stuff. So there's just a lot of memories with the Jets. For me, like Jets is family, and I couldn't see myself as any other fan but a Jets fan.
It's so cool to hear how passionate you are about it, of course, how much it's in your blood. Like
Yeah,
it was destiny, of
it
course, that
was.
all these things kind of had to happen. So that's amazing. And talk about Hollywood script story, walk it off. We've had a couple Jerome Bettis, the bus stops here in Detroit, winning the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
Strahan in the Super Bowl, and then Kimberly Cantoni, Pro Bowl with the cherry on top. Peace, everybody. I've done what I can do. Pro Bowl, baby. I'm out of here. And then you go on to your, the next phase of your life. That's amazing. That's beautiful.
It's something too. I would say it was always been a goal of mine, but for me, becoming the Pro Bowl cheerleader was a culmination of my entire dance career. I started dancing when I was 3 years old and wanted to dance professionally. And for me, I had a knee injury back in high school where I had doctors tell me I would never dance again. So to become the Pro Bowl cheerleader, it really was just the culmination of hard work, sacrifice, dedication, just everything that I had done my entire life to get the ultimate honor as an NFL cheerleader was truly a dream come true. My whole family was there. My husband was there. Like just to have all of them there, kind of just as a way to, like you said, send me off from my NFL cheerleading career was the perfect cherry on top for sure.
Again, we're speaking with Kimberly Cantoni here on Boy Green Daily, a New York Jets daily video show here, which is amazing. Kimberly, have you ever thought about, I don't know, maybe, and I don't know if we lost you here, so let me bring it back out, see if I can pop you back in here. But yeah, there we go. Kimberly, my question is, would you ever write a book? I mean, you start out from cut to Pro Bowl cheerleader and your podcast and all this wonderful Jets. I'm going to be honest. I think there's a story here to be written.
It's definitely been a thought of mine to write a book just about like experiences and things like that. I just wonder like who would actually read my book. But I have thought about it. So we'll see. Just need to find the time to put the pen to paper.
Fair enough, because, I don't know if you've told this part of your story yet, but, the Pro Bowl cheerleader, the getting, proposed to on the field, you've got a budding family yourself now that's really beyond goddamn Jets, which we'll talk about in a second, but you have your own family, you have, a child, you have a husband, you got a whole life beyond the Jets as well.
I do. Yes, I actually have a 1-year-old son named Giovanni. We call him Gio for short. I'm obsessed with him. He is a crazy 1-year-old. He definitely keeps me on my toes. And my husband, Frank, we've been married for this coming May will be 5 years now. And it's just kind of crazy. Like just to think about like 10 years ago, I was a rookie on the Jets flight crew. And fast forward 10 years now, and when people ask you, like, where do you see yourself in 10 years? This is exactly where I saw myself having a family and thinking about potentially having more kids and things like that. So it's kind of crazy to like put life into perspective and just be able to tell Gio and any future siblings, like, your mom was cool once, like she got to do this. And that's something that I'll always have with me.
By the way, I just saw this coming in. NY Jets FL says your book could be an inspiration for someone you never know. As I've just hired myself as your manager, again, we just need to make this book happen.
I love
that. Keep us updated with all of it. And yeah, that's hey, that's what Aaron Rodgers manifesting, speaking it into existence, making that. And that is a beautiful transition to the first 6 weeks of the season. Kimberly, we talked a little bit about it on the Goddamn Jets podcast, which actually I want people to know more about the Goddamn Jets podcast. I've joined it a few times. How quickly after your Pro Bowl ending with the Jets to the Goddamn Jets podcast, and kind of what was the genesis of that? How did that start after the cheerleading or even during, if that's what it was?
So it came after, and actually was started by John Zapanero, who is still a host of the show, and Max Cuccio, who he was a host of the show. He's no longer with the show, but we do bring him on as a guest from time to time. And the two of them started it actually as an Instagram live. And we started doing that, I would say, it was during the pandemics when they started the podcast as just like a way to get out there and to talk about the Jets, kind of have another kind of media outlet, if you will, during a time where you really couldn't do anything. And I was a frequent guest on the show, especially after like any Jets primetime games. I would come on Instagram Live and we would talk about the show. And around the end of the year of 2020, going into 21, is when the guys asked me if I would be willing to join the show full time. So I was like, absolutely. Yes, I want to. So that's kind of how I started being a part of the Goddamn Jets podcast. And from there, now we have Tom Boyle, who's also part of the show. And it's just such a great trio of different types of Jet minds. You know, John has that play-by-play analysis mindset. Me, I have a personal experience with the Jets where I've been on the field and I've seen the good, the bad, the ugly. And Tom is a wealth of knowledge as well when it comes to the analytics and the stats of football. So put all of that together and you have the Goddamn Jets. So it's been really fun to do. And we get together every Tuesday night and really just talk about everything the Jets. We recap what game happened before. We talk about the game coming up and anything that may be going on in Jets news.
So beautiful. So again, guys, if you haven't heard it, seen it everywhere, it's beyond Instagram. Now we've got it in a bunch of places. The Goddamn Jets Podcast, which is a fantastic name, by the way. So make sure you guys check it out after we're done with this Boy Green Daily Show. All the support that you can. So let's get into some Jets talk here, Kimberly. The Jets are 3-3. I think a lot of people would have signed up for 3-3 before the season, not knowing anything about the injuries, and that's exactly where they are, despite even having a bunch of injuries. How are you feeling, Kimberly, as we head into, again, quote unquote, the second half? I know the math doesn't check out, but the second half of the season with this 3-3 record.
You know, I feel really good about where we are now. I feel very optimistic. Anyone that has listened to my show knew my feelings about Aaron Rodgers going down and the fact that Zach Wilson had to make the field. People know that I am not the biggest fan of him. However, what we've seen from him is such tremendous growth and maturity that, to be honest, I wasn't sure was possible just based on what we've seen from him in years prior. I think the defense is just phenomenal. I think the defense is really the star power for this team, but I'm really impressed with the way that Zach Wilson has basically been able to overcome adversity, especially those growing pains in the first couple of weeks. Again, I was not the biggest supporter, and I was very adamant about Zach Wilson not being the answer, but this is what we're given now. These are the cards that were dealt, and I think the Jets as a whole have been able to back out the noise and been able to just focus on what they need to do to get the job done. And I think they've done a great job. I mean, they were so competitive with the Chiefs. Let's be honest. They should have won that game if it wasn't for the referees. Mm-hmm. They beat the Bills. They beat the Eagles. They beat such powerhouse teams that some people, even if Aaron Rodgers was at the helm, weren't exactly sure if they can do. So the fact that we're 3-3 right now, we're 1,000% in the conversation. I think this is a playoff-bound Jets team. I truly do. And I think that was the goal, especially with Aaron Rodgers going down. This Jets team deserved to be in the playoffs, and I think they're proving that. And we're a force to be reckoned with, and I think people are finally recognizing it, whether they want to or not. They're respecting it. And I think looking into the second half of the season, I think we can get the job done.
You're revving me up, Kimberly, on a gas charge Saturday morning. Playoffs? Oh, boy. I am all in. That sounds great. But I will be honest, you're not alone on the Zach Wilson thing. I think a lot of us looked at the Week 3 matchup against the Patriots as almost a barometer of where the season would go. You win, you conquer your demons. We can accomplish anything you want to. I mean, that was a very low point. 1-2. Zach Wilson didn't perform up to snuff. And if he would have, they would have won that game unquestionably. And again, I wasn't ready for Trevor Simeon or Tim Boyle time. No relation to Tom Boyle, of course. But I was interested in neither of those, but just in general, like, okay, we could go get a Kirk Cousins or whoever that name's going to be, because it just doesn't look like it's clicking. And then something happened with Joe Namath smacking him around and all of us screaming at him from all these portals. All of a sudden, something clicked, something went, obviously, because that Chiefs game, the Denver game even, and then this Eagles game where he wasn't spectacular, but he wasn't terrible. All of those things together, I mean, it's just been a very different Zach Wilson, which has renewed my confidence in the young man. And I think you're right. At the end of the day, what other choice do we have? These are the cards that have been dealt. These are the cards laying on the table, and we must rally around this young man and hope he can lead us to the promised land and everywhere we're at. So I don't think you're alone in that world, Kimberly, and now we're all in it together, and it's been surprising, the progress that we've seen thus far. Very surprising. Mm-hmm.
It has, and I know, like, yes, there were games like against the Cowboys that was rough, right? I feel like right within the first 5 minutes of the game, I know even me too, my breath was taken away by how the Cowboys defense was just after blood in that game. And the Jets-Patriots game, we should have won that game. There is no excuse. This Patriots team, I'm sorry, is just not it this year. So, I mean, there were definitely some red flag games is what I call them. And I feel like maybe it was Joe Namath. Something sparked in Zach Wilson where we literally saw just like a transformation instantly. And I feel like, and it's like the whole time, I feel like we were like, where was this guy that we drafted? Where have you been hiding literally the entire time you've been on this team? But I think you know, someone's character really comes out in times of adversity. And I think it got to a point for Zach Wilson. Good. I'm glad all the hate is fueling the fire within him, because we're seeing things from him that we didn't even think we would ever see from him. So I think now with the bye happening this weekend, it's a time to really to rest, recover, recuperate, and kind of just reset as well, and kind of get your mindset on track. Like, they're still in it. And like, there are games that are coming up that they have to win because they can win it. You know, at this point, I feel like the divisional games those are going to be our tough challenges. The Dolphins are no joke this year. And yes, they have lost games, but I mean, that putting up 70 points is no joke. When, like, we haven't seen that in the league in decades. So I think for them, the mindset is we are still in it. We have to keep fighting the games that look like they're could definitely win games. They have to win. And then as you go into these divisional games, if you can, like what we talked about on my show, we can just split like the games with the Bills, the Patriots, and the Dolphins. I think we're on track to get into the playoffs.
You know, a lot of people said it was Joe Namath. Personally, I think it was Kimberly Cantoni. That's who Zach Wilson heard. He's like, wait, what the hell's going on? I need to turn it on. I think that's really what happened. But, you know, that's neither here nor there, I guess. But I think that's to your point. Now that the Jets have beaten the Eagles, it's not that we should have beaten the Chiefs. I mean, that's just straight up. But we didn't. So it results in like a moral cookie. And that's how you can look at it. But actually straight up beating the Eagles, I think all of a sudden the expectations go, oh, the Jets won't just play around with good teams. They could beat good teams. They could be great teams. They're the last undefeated team remaining in the NFL before the Jets took them out. So now all of a sudden you beat that. Now we look at the Giants, Commanders, Texans, Falcons. And again, we could say this, Kimberly, with all due respect. Now I can say whatever the hell I want. Those teams are scrubs. You got to walk over those teams. You got to take care of some business and give us a dominant win for once. I mean, even the Broncos one was a little scary all the way down to the end. Let's flex our muscles a little. Let's smack some people around. That's what I'm looking for. So with that being said, Kimberly, before we get you out of here, give us your prediction for, again, it's almost like a mulligan, because I'm sure on the Goddamn Jets podcast, you all made preseason predictions. I think they're going to have this many wins, this many losses. But now that you know everything, the injuries, the Aaron Rodgers, the Elijah Vera Tucker, I mean, it's terrible. But now knowing all that and where they stand currently, how many wins are they going to have at the end of the regular season, in Kimberly Cantoni's opinion?
Ooh, so I made this prediction on our show, and some people were like, whoa, Kim, that's a high number. Ooh, but I think it's a doable number. I really do. Now, looking at the remainder of the season, I think the Jets are going to finish the season 12-5.
Zoinks! Okay, baby.
I know. It's a big number, but I think just looking at the opponents and the confidence level that the Jets now have, putting the exclamation point on the Eagles, I just feel like they can do it. They can do it. They have it now. They figured it out. All the kinks are gone, and I really think they can come out with 12 wins.
That would be beautiful. It would tie the most regular season wins the Jets have ever had. Those back, of course, in 1998. I love it. And by the way, folks, if you think it's crazy, I hear some of these people immediately going, "Zooey mama,
I
Kim,
know.
that's high," and all this other stuff. I would tell you, I would advocate, and I would urge you to look at the schedule and then come back to Kimberly and apologize and get on your knees and bow down to this woman. Because again, you talk about Giants, Raiders, Chargers. These are off the top of my head. I don't even have the schedule in front of me, but Giants, Raiders, Chargers, Commanders, Texans, Falcons. That's 6 off the top of my head. And I
Mhm.
think they can win all those. All of a sudden, you're 9. And I haven't talked about the splits of the division we talked
Right.
about earlier, Kimberly, or Buffalo. You already beat them once. So at worst, you're splitting.
Mhm.
Patriots, of course, you hope to split at the end of the year. And then the Dolphins, you haven't played at all. Let's see what their 70-point offense looks like against our crazy defense. I'm willing to roll the dice and see what happens. I'm not
Nice.
notching those as losses yet. So when you add all that up, I just got us to 12, Kimberly. So I
Yeah.
think it's possible, baby. So I am very much looking forward to it. So, Kimberly, thank you for the positive vibes, the chutzpah, the juice. You did not disappoint. I could see why you were voted to the Pro Bowl. I'd vote you for the Pro Bowl again this year. It's phenomenal. Yes.
Thank you so much, Paul. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, Jets, and anything. And so excited to finally be on the show. Anytime you need me, happy to come on.
Boom. I am fully taking advantage of that. Now that you've put those words in the ethos, we have it on tape. I will tell the people in post to leave that, cut that, and reclip that because that's happening. Absolutely. We're having you back on the show. And before everyone gets out of here, reminder, if you go to the Twitter or the X Sphere, we are giving away 2 autographed Jets jerseys, a Garrett Wilson jersey and Elijah Vera Tucker jersey. I've paired up with New York Jets Situation Report. If you guys would like to get in on that, that contest is on my Twitter. So go check that out. Again, at BoyGreen25. We want to help out the people. First off, we give you the beautiful, knowledgeable Kimberly Cantoni, and then booyah, just for you people, you can also get involved and win a couple of autographed Jets jerseys. So go do that on Jets. Yes, I'm a man of the people. You're welcome. Thank you. All right. Well, Kimberly, thanks for joining us. And what do we got? You said Goddamn Jet podcast live every Tuesday?
Every Tuesday on YouTube at 7:30 Eastern time, and then we go on to any kind of podcast channels you may listen to the following day on Wednesday. And I'm also on Twitter, Instagram at Kimberly Cantoni. So come on over, give me a follow. I'll say hello.
Hit that gosh darn follow button, baby. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow morning back in New York for me for Boy Green Daily. Thanks, everybody. God bless.